Dreamers, it's Kayla King and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome. Today I'm excited to share day one of my Preptober process as I get ready for NaNoWriMo 2022. First thing I did was go back through some of the older printed versions I had of my manuscript to pull out any important notes. This was the first printed version that I had. You can see here, quite lengthy. This was the second printed version that I had. This one looks a little bit more like a real book. You can see here though that I have lots of highlights and lots of notes within this book. So there was a lot to parse through, and ultimately the book has changed so much since this last draft that I wasn't actually able to pull a lot of information, but still fun to look back at nonetheless. And last but most certainly not least, I do have my most recent edition. This is just for section 1 of the novel. You can see here it's got a 1 on the front, and while I didn't have anything specific to pull note-wise from here, I did actually find 2 spots in chapter 1 and then another in chapter 2 where I do want to tinker a little bit more. For the day 1 organization process of Preptober, I am going to be creating a writing schedule for the whole month of November, as well as some kind of chapter tracking system within my editing notebook. I have that right here. This is actually an undated Archer and Olive planner, which I have converted into use for editing. I'm going to be taking an empty calendar page like this to set up my main writing schedule, and then in these blank weekly pages, I am going to be setting up my chapter tracker. Let's dive right in. All right, this is all set. As you can see, I did use some floral washi tape and a dark blue pen. I've written NaNoWriMo on the side here, and I've gone through and filled out all of the days and where I'm hoping to be word count wise as far as editing and touching chapters, as well as each of the chapters I'm hoping to cover day by day during the month of November. Over here, I have included my to-do list, which has many of the sections of my novel that I'm hoping to get through, as well as that ideal number of cutting 27,000 words, completing one writing warm-up for 10 minutes each day, and last but not least, to have fun, because what is the point of any of this if I'm not enjoying it? Next up, I do have my chapter tracking pages. I do have some tiny colored circle stickers that I will be using to note when I have completed the edits or the rewrites for a specific chapter. You can see up top I've written the section and then the specific myth or story that is inspiring the epigraph to open each of these sections. In the post-it notes, you'll see that I've written the chapter. I do have a chapter title name. This isn't going to be in the final book. This is just for myself to remember what each of these chapters are, especially because I've changed the chapter order so many times. It's helpful for me to know what the actual chapter is about based on the title. I've also added the current word count. This is something that I'm going to be very mindful of as I continue working on this process and seeing if I can cut down any of these words as I go. I ran out of the orange post-its, but that's okay. It really wasn't meant to be anything pretty, just something usable. Section 3, Section 4, Section 5, which currently has the most chapters. I actually had to add one of the other chapters to the next page for Section 6. For Section 6, I did leave 2 blank post-it notes down here because I do think I'm actually going to have to add 2 more chapters to this section, but until I get into it, I didn't want to add chapters where they don't necessarily need to be within the manuscript. I really love the color of the post-its for Section 7. This very much resembles the coloring on the book cover and the specific color that I see for some of the technology within my fictional world. I'm currently working on this section, so if I can make any more progress before NaNoWriMo starts, I'll be excited, but for now, this will be the section that I start with come November 1st. And last but not least, we have Section 9. There's only 1 chapter in here. I guess you could say it's more of an epilogue, but in my mind, I'm including it in Section 9 and really using it to wrap up the rest of the story. Because even though I do see this as a possible duology, I know when it comes time to query that it really should feel like a standalone novel. It's been so long since I've touched this chapter, so hopefully I will get it right during this next pass. Now, you might be wondering why I am starting in Section 8 of a 9-section book, and really this has to do with the fact that I haven't looked at these later chapters in quite a few years. My focus has really been on reworking the beginning, getting a solid foundation before diving into these later chapters. So currently where I'm at in my process, I had left off in Section 2. I had been working linearly from the beginning, working towards the end of the book. Ultimately, I don't feel like I am doing myself any good by getting caught up in these beginning chapters when I know that an entire book should feel like polished material. A lot of agents say those beginning pages, opening chapters really feel like publishable material, and that somewhere around the middle to the end, the quality of the writing does decrease, and I certainly don't want that to be an issue with my manuscript when it comes time to query again. So I am focusing my efforts on Section 8 and Section 9 to get me through to the end of the book, and this should take up about the first week of NaNoWriMo. After that, I'm going to go back to Section 6, which is where I left off the last time I was drafting material in 2021, and I'm going to work to streamline Section 6 and 7 as it transitions into where I'm at in 8. Once these ending sections are done, I'm then going to go back to Section 2 and see how many words I actually have to work with, see if I can make any cuts, streamline, transform those chapters so that everything is as polished and tight as possible. Really, the way I have looked at this manuscript for the last few years, but especially the last few months, has been thinning everything down to bone, taking out the unnecessary fat and making sure that every chapter, every scene, and every character has a purpose. And this just goes to show how connected we can be to our stories and our characters, because so much of what my main character is going through at the opening of this book is trying to find her purpose. And maybe this goes to the bigger notion of being in your 20s and 30s and trying to figure life out, or just the fact that as humans, we feel like we are meant to do something. I've always known that I wanted to be a writer. It feels like something I'm meant to do. And this project has absolutely felt like the book that needed to be written now. I'm so excited to keep making progress. Now that I have this solid foundation of organization, I'm feeling so much better about fully committing to NaNoWriMo and making it through 50,000 words and hopefully cutting close close to the 27,000 that I have left to go. If you're also a writer, I'd love to know how you get organized. Do you use Post-it notes? Do you use a calendar app, a paper planner? Whatever it may be, I'd love to know, so let me know in the comments down below. As always, I appreciate your support and taking the time to follow along with my writing journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, no matter where the day takes you, dream big.